Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and welcome to our next panel discussion around the perception and the actual value of a luxury watch. But without waiting, let's welcome on stage our four experts.
Well, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at Watches and Wonders live for this very important panel about what is the worth of your watch. So let me first introduce you to my fellow panelists. Carson Chan, known as the watch professor, because he has a very important role as a master trainer for the foundation of Haute Horlogerie. He's also a seasoned collector. Bryn Wallner, who is with us today also, is the founder of dimepiece.co, and she is a platform dedicated to all things women and watches. And finally, Aurel Bax, that needs absolutely no introduction, as the great watch expert he is, the co-founder of Bax and Russo, and one of the consultants of Philips Auction House. He is the world-renowned auctioneer. Together, we'll try to define what makes the true value of a watch. And we've seen that mechanical watches have really exploded recently, the interest in it. Are they just another financial asset? Are they just, is the story they tell more than that? Is the emotion behind it really what's important? So let's dive into it. We'll start with the obvious of value, its original price tag. What does it represent? And so Carson, when you make a decision to buy a watch, what do you look at?
Well, I think in a very surface look of it, you first look at the retail price. What is the brand offering you at the retail price? And then there's always a difference between the retail price and the market price. Just because the brand says it's 10,000, the market may say more, sometimes less. So these are the factors that I want to consider. But obviously, when you are buying one watch, or when you are buying, when you have more than one watch, when you're a collector, you would also consider how does this piece fit into your existing collection. These are the factors that I consider. Is it for a special occasion? Is it for me to satisfy a missing piece in the puzzle? So these are all the things that I think about.
What about you, Bryn? How do you tackle that problem?
When I'm buying a watch?
Yes.
Well, I don't buy many watches. I'm not a big collector. But I appreciate watches for their intrinsic kind of artistic value, because I'm here at Watches and Wonders, I'm looking at all these amazing things, and I kind of know that I'm not going to own them necessarily. As much as I want a steel sports watch, like a Rolex Daytona, I would love that, of course. But I feel as though, as an entry-level collector, I have to get really creative with what I choose. I have to look for things that are kind of more diamonds in the rough, maybe a $500 Seiko diver, something that where the price isn't so important, but it's more I'm looking at condition of something. I want it to, if it's a $500 watch, I want it to be the best $500 watch it can be. So, yeah. But one day, the Royal Oak, the Daytona, forget about it.
And what about you, Aurel? Not as the auctioneer, really as the collector you are. What makes you tick?
Good question. I think we can openly admit here that all these beautiful watches that are currently being shown here are not things we really need in terms of telling the time. So it's pleasure, like a great wine, a great holiday. So the question is, to me, in terms of the value, how happy does it make me? The happiness can be its sheer beauty, its fascinating mechanism, its history, its condition. Now, needless to say, there are watches that are worth 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times from others. The question is, do they make you 1,000 times happier?
Good question.
It's a matter of your own budget, because if your budget is limited, even if it doesn't make you 1,000 times happier, you can still go for it. It's an interesting equation what, to me, the value of a watch is. Needless to say, the most priceless watches that I own are those that I connect with a person, an occasion, maybe it's even a family heirloom, a gift for a great occasion. They have no price tag.
Sure. So we see it's always a balance between heart and reason. There's something that really is coming into play more and more these days is the explosion of the secondary market. We've seen a tremendous growth in the latest years, and all the studies show that this market is probably going to be twice as big as the primary market. How does that influence you when you look at a watch? When you decide to go into buying a watch, do you always look at the resale price after, so that influences you in your decision? Who wants to try that first? Carson?
Me? Yeah, sure. I agree with what Wael said about happiness. I think today, absolutely, no one buys a watch to. The primary objective is not to read the time. The functionality of a watch is no longer relevant. It's probably more relevant to your want. There's no such word, I need a watch. I think today there's only thing left is I want a watch. So therefore, how bad do you want it? Why do you want it? And these are the reasons that you need to define for yourself. At a secondary market, more importantly for me, is the condition of the watch. Because these are older watches, has it been taken care of in the past 20, 30 years? It makes a difference in terms of price.
Of course.
So I would have a general understanding of what the market price is, and then take that into consideration against the condition that I'm looking at. Then determine if that is a relevant value that I want to come to.
Coming back to the value on the secondary market, it's interesting, both Bryn and Aurel, you deal a lot with secondary watches, of course, not secondary watches, but watch on the second market. How do you determine the price that you put them at on your site, Bryn? And we'll know how you create the estimates for yours on auctions.
Right. Well, I sell a very, very tightly curated, limited number of watches. I'm not Chrono 24, I'm not Philips, but I've just gotten so many incoming messages from people eager to buy watches, and for an entry-level person, they really have no idea where to go. And even not entry-level, if you're looking to buy something of higher value, but still it can be very daunting to type in anything from Rolex Datejust to Patek Philippe Aquanaut. So there's just so much information online and in person. You're just seeing, it can be quite overwhelming. And I think, the solution is, for me, I'm not going to solve a problem at large for anybody, but on a very small scale, I can offer, a safe space for somebody who just wants somebody to talk to, wants somebody to find something very special. You take, I mentioned the Aquanaut, the Nautilus, the Royal Oak. These are all designed by Gerald Genta, who most of you in the room probably know who he is. But I just sold a Gerald Genta. It was his own creation for no brand, and it was a Mickey Mouse watch. And actually, he displayed it at a Swiss watch fair in the 80s, and they saw it, and they were so appalled that they had him take it off. And it was just too fun. It was too out there. And But now you see that type of watch that was shunned back in the day, and it might not be the hype watch, but it's something that has a story, it has value in that sense. And it's from an iconic designer, but it's very undervalued compared to its more popular cousins. And when I find a piece like that, I'm really looking for condition. And I do this with the help of Alan Bedwell, who goes by Foundwell. So I don't do it completely on my own. He's a professional antique and vintage watch dealer. And it's just a really nice partnership. And it's a place for people to come to if they're in need of kind of a personal, very, very small scale way of sourcing and finding special diamond in the rough pieces.
Okay. Aurel, can you tell us how those estimates are decided and why are they so low all the time?
Okay. Not the retail price,
no.
but the market price, the resale price for a pre-owned watch. And a pre-owned watch can be a $17 million Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Is nothing but the consequence of supply and demand. It's the same like the stock market, the real estate market. It's a market with players, sellers and buyers. If you have a watch that exists in 1,000 examples, but 10,000 people who want it, prices go up. If the CEO of a brand says, by the end of the year, this model will stop, prices will go up. But if he replaces it by a better, more modern, cooler watch, and maybe even offers it at a more attractive price, the pre-owned price will go down. So there's a constant up and down, recently more up than down. And we basically, like a real estate specialist, have to examine the watch. We look at what has the same watch achieved at auction a week, a month, 2 months, or a season ago, and what has happened since the last appearance on the market. That's very easy when you have a 1, 2, 3-year-old, hardly ever worn, complete, original stylo, second case back, cert, inner packaging, outer box, sales receipt. Great. What do you do when you have a watch that exists only once? And I'm not just talking about a Patek Philippe Grave super complication, but when much of its value is emotional, like the Paul Newman by Paul Newman, where there is no formula that says, well, if a non-Paul Newman owned example is worth 150, hence factor 5, factor 10. Well, it ended up being factor 170. And this is the most difficult part of our job. What's equally difficult is with vintage watches, how you value condition. If you have a vintage something and it's worth 100,000. Now you find one that has a scratch on it. Is that scratch minus 1%, minus 10%, minus 20%? Or you find one in absolutely virtually mint condition. Do you add a premium of 10, 20, or even 100%? And the market in general becomes more and more selective, more and more educated, and therefore, for the very same model, reference number, year of production, material, the gap between poor, average, good, very good, excellent, amazingly good, brand new, can suddenly have 1,000% or more price difference. That's where the job becomes interesting, thankfully. Otherwise, now everybody in the room could do the job. You ask, why are the estimates so conservative?
Yeah.
Very simple. If you go to a dealer, any dealer, and you see the watch of your dreams, he asks for $20,000. Very likely you go in and say, you know what, I offer you 18 for it. He says, no, I can't do 18. I already paid 18. Okay, I offer you 18.5. No, I can do 19.5. That's my last one. You say 19, but I pay by credit card. No, then I need to have 19.250. So you negotiate down. In our world, it's completely different. If I have a $20,000 watch, I'll probably offer it at 10, 12, and let the market, the bidders, the audience decide 12, 13, 14, 15, until maybe not, you get it for the same 19,250, or more or less.
With the market really developing, has it become really a speculation asset, the watches? Your clientele has tremendously changed over the past years. Does that, the fact that there's more people, obviously creates speculation? How do we deal with that aspect? Because we don't want to create a bubble. We saw the prices went very much up, and now they're going a little bit down. Is that a sign of a bubble? How do we make the difference between people who are just there for the speculation and the watch lovers that really want that watch?
You're asking me?
Sure.
I'll say it out loud, and I'll say it on camera. I'm not fond of speculation with collectibles like watches. I don't think that you should marry for material gain. You should marry for love.
Yeah.
When you buy the home for your family, whether it's a one-bedroom studio or a big villa, you imagine you being happy there with your family, and not, can I flip it in 6 months for 50% profit? Yeah. And I hope it's very much the same for watches, that you do it first for passion and for love. Yeah. In fact, I'm not even that depressed when speculators, spec collectors, we call them, don't make money but maybe lose money. Maybe they start enjoying the watch instead of selling it at a loss.
And that's a very good point.
I find it okay, though, and I say that clearly, that when you buy a high-value collector's watch, whether it's brand new here or pre-owned or vintage at auction or with a fellow collector, that you do make your homework and find out what is it really worth. Because nobody wants to put their hard-earned dollars, savings, in a $50,000 watch to find out that, in fact, it's only worth $25,000. That would be a shame. However, when I buy a watch and I say it's what's retail or what's pre-owned price, 10,000, and I have to pay 10,000, maybe even 10.5, maybe even 11, I say, okay, fine, no dinner with Bordeaux next week on Saturday evening. I paid the premium, but it makes me happy. Yeah. So you don't always have to make money on a watch.
So we do see, hearing all of you, we do see that the secondary market has a lot of influence in as showing the true value, whether it's balancing supply and demand, and whether it's just showing what's the potential outcome of a watch is. So, but it does in the end come back to really what the emotion, and you all three of you spoke about that, and that's really, for me, it's what really makes the difference of a value, the true worth of a watch. For example, in your collections, are the most expensive watches the one that have the most value for you? Carson, I know you have tons of watches. Are they all very expensive?
I know my wife is watching. I only have 10. But no, I agree with Aurel. I think very important. I think everybody, most of the people, have a limited resource when they're coming to buy a watch. So you have to consider what is the outcome of it. But I think putting investment at the top of the decision making, it's not fun. It's not right. I'll give you an example. If you buy a painting, simply you want to speculate on this painting, you're not going to get enjoyment out of it. I much rather buy a painting that I would hang at home. The whole family, my kids grew up with it, and we look at this painting, we enjoy it. Whereas you go buy a painting, you know, it's a new artist, it's very bloody. You don't want to hang it in your living room. You just keep it in your. Okay, so 20 years later, you're going to sell it, and you make 20,000. Versus the other painting that you've been using, 20 years later, you sell it at the same price that you bought. I think that is still you earn, you still gain in emotional value. To me, I think. The key message is knowledge. You, as a collector, you need to build a foundation of knowledge, your own, to understand what you are getting into. You understand, but it's like wine. Nobody collect wine and not know how to drink wine, right? So you want to put some time into learning what is the different region of wine, what are the years. It's very simple for me.
Do you see the same thing in your community, Bryn? People come to you, but they're not looking especially for the price. They're looking for something that speaks to them.
Yeah, I get hundreds of messages. Not hundreds, okay. I get so many messages, people saying, I bought a watch, I'm so inspired by what you're doing, and I bought it for myself. And it could be something like this, which you asked what I consider my most valuable watch, and it's this Cartier Tank Française that I bought 2 years ago. It was my first ever luxury watch. I bought it on my 31st birthday, a year after I started Dime Piece. And I walked into the Cartier store and bought it, right? It's not like, other retailers where you have to go to the secondary market because there's just no supply in the stores. This is a steel watch. It's not rare. It is just, it's a Cartier Tank Française. It was $3,400 USD. I think it's gone up $100 because of inflation since then. But this is my most valuable watch. It was my first watch. It commemorated this time for me that was so important. I bought it for myself, and I had to save for it. And that's so many other people who come to me and they say, I just bought my first watch. It's not, it's not collecting, and this is one watch. I saved $4,000 for it, and it means so much because one day I'll give it to my kid. I don't have one yet, but I want to have one. And this will get passed on through generations, and I hope nobody sells it because this was such a meaningful object to me, and it will, much more than a pair of shoes or a handbag or any other luxury items that are often especially advertised to women. There's something different about a watch. It lives and breathes with you. And so to me, the monetary value is almost irrelevant at this level of collecting, which is very, very low. So yeah.
Aurel, you see that every day at auctions, that really the story behind the watch is what really makes the value. The supply and demand, okay, but the story, whether it's for an auction and whether in your collection, the watches that have a story are the ones that are the most valuable for you. Is that correct assessment?
Well, to me, in my own collection, of course, the ones that I associate with a particular moment or a person, a friend, are the most precious.
Precious, yes.
And they, in fact, have not a price tag. I mean, you could literally offer me double, triple, quadruple for such a heirloom, family heirloom watch, and I would say, yeah, it's generous, but no thank you. At auction, we have pretty much everything. And when I say everything, it could be a 2023 watch that was, for example, a gift that the recipient didn't want, comes around and we get a brand new watch. There is no story attached to it. We're not going to publish in the catalog that it was a gift from husband to wife, they had a fight, he's selling it, she's selling it. No. And it's not relevant and interesting to the other collectors anyway. Now we're offering the last Emperor's Patek Philippe. There's an amazing story, and I can assure you the auction catalog will be thick like that, with so much documentation. There's a story. But in all honesty, I think in 98% of all cases, the watch itself is the story. The rarity of the dial color, the numerals, the condition, the hallmarks, the uniqueness of it, and not was it famous 1, 2, 3 person watch. Very rare. Simply by definition, there's not that many famous people out there in the world.
Sure. So we see that apart from the financial investment, what really makes the value of a watch is what it means for the owner. Whether it's the story of the brand, the story of a complication, the story of a dial, the story of the craftsmanship behind it, and most of all, the story it represents for you. Whether you all said it, when it's a special occasion, that's where it's the more valuable. So we go far beyond what financial investment is, and I think because the emotion that's attached to it, we're getting closer to what art is in general. So that's I think that's really the best way to define the value, the true value of a watch. So that's pretty much what we wanted to show you. Do we have questions in the audience relating to that matter? Yes? Okay. Attendez. Microphone. Microphone?
Thank you for the very insight discussion. I'll ask you a very bare question, so sorry if I am a bit straightforward. It relates to the surplus that we pay for the brand. I'm explaining myself. Suppose my name is Kai, and I want to, watch is my interest, and I have a brand, Kai brand. And I produce a watch which in terms of quality, attractiveness, is practically equal to a famous brand. So how much do I pay for the brand compared to the real value of the watch?
That's a very good point.
Thank you.
The brand value.
Happy to answer first and stick my neck out. And I just had a lecture this week, and I started a slide when it was about the value of watches. In Latin, quod licet Jovis non licet bovis, meaning what God can do, the cow cannot do. What does it mean? If I would draw a portrait of a lady with an eye here and a nose here, you would say, I'm not even going to give you $5 for that. But if Pablo Picasso did it, and he did, you would pay millions. And the same with wine. You can do blind tasting. You have a Romane Conti, the bottle is 20,000. You have an unknown winemaker, it pleases you as much, and it's $250. Maybe both have 99 points in Parker. It's a bloody unfair world. But these brands have worked decades, and in some instances centuries, to deserve that reputation. And of course it shows with the resale value. So it's not that when you pay for the same stainless steel Genta designed watch, you can find some at 10,000, some at 100,000, some at 500,000.
So
and some have just been launched at 13,000 this week. Go what makes you happy. Go and buy what makes you happy. And maybe you get your money back even if you pay 500 for a Romane Conti. I'm sure you can sell the bottle again very well if you don't want to drink it. But that's the power of reputation.
Yeah. And it's earned through time. Another question? Yes, here in front.
Hi, thank you. I have a very practical question. In the resellers market, how do you advise on the establishment of authenticity before putting your money in it?
I don't want to monopolize this, so what do you want to start?
How do you
establish authenticity in the pre-owned market?
Well, first of all, you would, depending on how old it is, right? You would check the provenance of the piece. The more information you have, the better. So if I am a buyer, I want to know where did you get it, how long have you had it, what are the history of it. The more information you can give me, the better. If you cannot absolutely, if there's no information, then it boils down to my own knowledge. Coming back to this knowledge I kept talking about, you have to build some kind of knowledge, you know, to empower yourself to enjoy this hobby. Otherwise, you're going to have to get a third party to help you with it.
All right, thank you. And I think that
May I add something?
Yeah.
To that? I am myself selling pre-owned watches, of course at auction, but at the same time as a collector I buy watches. And the most important thing, unless you check it out yourself, is the trust you place in the seller. If Carson would sell me a watch and he calls me from Hong Kong, hey, I found your dream watch. It's like new. You will want it. Trust me. I know the guy. He's serious. I buy it from his collection,
we
unseen.
have to wrap it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thank you very much for following
the seller.
us.
That's my advice.
And keep the value in your heart. That's where it goes. Voilà. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.